Hello, hello, hello. My name is Robert. I am the recovery guy, and you have entered into The Fix. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Robert. I am the recovery guy. It is so good to be back in front of the microphone with you in Recovery Guy Studios. It has been a minute since we've chatted. I took the summer off to start putting my book together and compiling From Broken to Whole and sort of like a journey to recovery. Today I have 12,000. Are you ready for this? Today's just crazy, right? 12,962 days of continual recovery. 12,962. And I am mind blown by what has happened to me along this journey, this road of happy destiny. And figure this, the individuals who have been instrumental in my recovered life has like Slow Will, my sponsor's got 41 years. Buddy C's got 44 years. Fast Eddie P has got going on 38 years. Steve M's got over 37 years. Scott Shields has got 38 years. I met this really cool guy in Southern California, Chuck, a couple of weeks ago. He's got over 50 years of recovery. So I'm like the baby, right, of the people that I emulate. I listened to a fellow on a podcast or tape, AA tape the other day, Johnny Harris and Bob Earl, giants in recovery that I used to listen to when I was so afraid to come out from my covers, but I could come out to turn. Back in those days, it was cassettes, right? I would turn the cassette over so I would listen because I realized what a danger I was to me. And being anywhere besides my room, my one-room motel in Las Vegas, and the club. This is before I was even employable, right? I graduated from sleeping on Will's couch to my own place, and I would go from that place, that little room, probably a 12 by 12 room, down to the turning point to get my 3 or 4 meetings a day. And in between the meetings, I was like the ambassador, the unofficial greeter of the place. I didn't know what to do with myself. And you know why? Because I did not understand surrender. Are you with me? So in this podcast today, podcast 207, today's title is Surrender to Win. And please follow me on Instagram at recovery_guy. Go to my website, recoveryguy.org. Find me, The Recovery Guy, on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter as well. Reach out to me. Let me know if I can be a sober coach, an influence to you in your life. Let's get this thing done. Surrender. We must surrender. I don't care who you are. You can disagree with this, and you might as well turn the podcast off now, because if you don't get along with me now, you certainly aren't going to get along with me when I'm done, and I'm perfectly okay with that. But if you're tired of not winning, if you're tired, as I was and occasionally am, of not achieving the goals in life that you want to achieve, then let's talk about the S word. Let's talk about surrender. You know, anywhere you go in the Buddhist network, if you're a naturalist, if you're a Muslim, if you're a Jew, if you're a Christian, if you're a Catholic, it really doesn't matter if you're an LDS member of that church. Anywhere you go in the monotheistic religions of the world, and even the Buddhist or the Asian religions, you have to surrender. We have to set aside self. To the degree that I had a mentor, one of the most influential people in my entire life, he would look at me and say, Robert, every time you defend yourself, it's pride. Man, I hated that. Wouldn't you? But But, and I would try to explain why I was right, but I was defending a position that didn't need to be defending, but my ego thought it did. If it wasn't for surrender, I would be dead by now. Again, any program you come into, anything that you're going to do in life, you need to surrender. Even Stephen Covey will teach you from a very secular perspective. He said that every major scientific breakthrough came from a break with. I have to admit I was wrong before I can learn. I have to say I don't know before my mind is going to open up to a new idea, a new process, something where I need to consider in order to expand my life or grow in my life or take on a new idea, a new concept. And surrender to win is paradoxical, but it's true in fact. And we must surrender if we are going to win. I must surrender. I must say I don't know before I know. Because if I say I know, why would I need to know? One of the great things that Bill Wilson said, contempt prior to investigation is a bar against all information and will lead to everlasting ignorance. So, I'm a big 12-step guy, and I make no apologies for it. Heck, I've got 12,962 days. I don't have to apologize for anything in my recovered life, right? Well, a few things, but I have a 10-step to cover that, right? Where I continue to take personal inventory, and when I was wrong, promptly admit it. My day is filled with admitting where I could have done a better job here or there or the other, been a better husband, been a better father, been a better friend, been a more effective coach, anything like that, right? And I need to turn that around. I need to say, I don't know, help me learn, surrender to it so I can win and get on to the next thing. Here it is, though. Dictionary.com, one of my buddies. Here it is to surrender. It says to yield to the possession or power of another, to deliver up possession on a demand or under duress. Wow. Step one, baby. Admitted we were powerless over alcohol and our life had become unmanageable. This, we believe, is the first step in recovery. Why? Because it's surrendering. Admitting I am powerless is surrendering. Step one is often referred to as I can't. I'm holding up the white flag. I'm saying I surrender. I can't do this. One of my dear friends, he's actually the only person I know, and I'm sure there's many, and Tom Bennett was brilliant. He was my first treatment counselor when I went into the Nevada Treatment Center back in February of 1986. And Tom would say, if you're not sure you're an alcoholic, stick around because you'll do till one shows up, right? And I still see the humor in that today. He knew that I had so much pride. He knew that I wasn't surrendering. But he knew if I just kept coming around, and one of the things that my sponsor Will says is that the fellowship is not the program of recovery. But the fellowship will keep me coming back while the program takes hold and begins to incorporate in my life. Remember, fellowship is outside of me based on people, places, and things and feeling comfortable again, where the program is what resonates in me. So there's that drawing of the fellowship while the program itself permeates me and becomes part of who I am. And to this day, I like to think that I'm a living, breathing organism of 12-step recovery, of a God-centered position in becoming well, which is a daily journey, which is why I remember even with 35 plus years, every week I go in and say, what day am I on today? And then I just start counting forward. Because I have some friends, my friend Alan, I was chatting with him yesterday, 409 days. My friend Wendy has, I think, 1,880 days. She has 4.65 months. My friend in New York, she has, I think, 41 days today. My nephew Peter, over 700 days, right? So we're all about one day at a time. And even though I'm 35 plus years, over 3.5 decades of personal recovery, I know that it is the surrender of the day 7 times in a row gives me a week. I surrender 30 to 31 days in a row and I have a month, right? And so on and so forth. I do that 365 days in a row and I have 1 year. I've done that over 35 and a half times. But I've done it through the position of surrender, and I still surrender today. And we'll talk about that as we move forward. So here we are. And again, the whole idea of the position of surrender means I can't. So I need to come and say that I'm powerless over, and whatever it is, right? I'm not powerless over alcohol or drugs anymore, right? I have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. But there are other things that I am powerless and I need to surrender to, like my crazy attitude when I allow my emotion to exceed my intellect. And I don't act normally in an otherwise normal situation. I get upset. I'm very passionate. I respond without knowing all the information. I need to surrender to that, my own will of saying, I know how things ought to be regardless of how they are. So I need to continue to surrender. But certainly as we're addressing certain things, I just have a new friend and she has a smoking cessation Instagram page. And I remember November 17th of 1993 when I put down a cigarette for the last time, right? When I put that down for the last time, and I've never returned to smoking again, just like April 25th of 1986 was the last time I ever had a drink. Actually, the 24th, the 25th is my sobriety day. We surrender to those things. We turn that over to a power because we say, I can't do this anymore. That's what surrender is, right? Do you ever watch wrestling or any type of jiu-jitsu or where you can tap out? You know you're defeated. You're on the mat. They've got you in a hold. You know you can't release from. And it's almost like a boa constrictor. The more you move, the tighter the grip gets. And that's the way my addiction was. The more I moved in that destructive direction, the more I moved, whether it was my bulimia or my pornography or my gambling or my compulsive food or my drugs or my alcohol, anytime I moved in a direction because I was sick, I moved in that direction. And until I surrendered to that, I stood no chance. So the more I moved, it took me a minute to tap out. I can't do this anymore because if I do, I will die. And it's not that I wanted to die. It was just, I didn't know how to live. But before I could live, I had to say, I don't know how to live. Before I could learn, I had to say, I don't know. And I'm scared. And if I feel if I let go, I'll fall. But it was only with my letting go that I rose. And I invite you into that same arena with me as well. One of the things it talks about in dictionary.com and surrender to win, it says he surrendered himself to a life of hardship. Well, my not surrendering was the hardship. It says to give oneself up. Myself was killing me. To give oneself up to some influence, a course, a path, right? That is what a course is. It is a direction, right? It is a direction. It is a new way of living that demands, as it says, rigorous honesty. When it's used as a verb, it says to give oneself up as into the power of another. Submit or yield. Before I would submit to a power greater than myself, before I could even admit in a step 2 where I came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity, first I had to understand that I had no power, that I must surrender to that lack of power. That was my dilemma. And I had to surrender to the fact that I was insane. Because sane people aren't adulterers. Sane people don't walk out on their children. Sane people actually show up 2 hours later with milk or an hour later instead of 3 days later and wonder why everyone is upset. Sane people don't quit a job just because they can. Do you know that I was so arrogant? I dropped out of high school on January 3rd of 1972. Do you know why? Because I could. I turned 18 years old and I was just tired of it all. My notion was, I don't need you to ruin my life. I can do it perfectly fine all by myself. And I set out on a course of drinking and using, engaging in other nefarious behaviors that would just begin to take me down this hole of destruction. I thought I had all the power. The last thing on my mind was to surrender. And my lack of surrender was killing me one day at a time. And now I come into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I realize that the only way for me to have a chance in this thing we call life is to say, I don't know how to live. It is the act or an instance of surrendering. Now, we surrender in an instant so we can move forward and stop the ridiculous usage of drugs and alcohol. But surrender is something that I try to do every day. Every one of the individuals that I know who are active in recovery, like my friend Alan, he is so involved in service when it's even inconvenient for him to be in service. You know why? Because he's surrendered. He's given himself up over to another power where he now serves others. And that's what surrender is, to surrender my time, to surrender my energy, to surrender my mind, to surrender my soul, to surrender my heart. And what's fabulous about this, what's really cool, is that they showed me that the path to power is admitting I didn't have power. The path to winning is to say that I wasn't winning, was surrender. When I give up power, and this is going back to the 12 steps of recovery, you agree or disagree with them, I'm perfectly fine with that, but they make sense, right? So I surrender my power, which is killing me, in step 1. I learn how I am my own worst enemy, right, in steps 2, 3, 4. I talk about it in step 5. I grow in great communion with God in step 6 and step 7 to try to refine the process. I tell you, I make a list of telling you who's on the list to tell I'm sorry. I make that list. I tell you I'm sorry in step 9. All surrender, 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 surrender. Every step is surrender. Step 2, came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. I have to surrender to a power greater than me. Step 3, I become willing to turn my will and my life. I'm turning over, I'm surrendering my life to a power greater than myself. Step 4, I'm surrendering my past as I write it down. Again, through all the steps, it's surrender, surrender, surrender. And just when I get done with steps 1 through 9 in surrendering, I then surrender myself in step 10, where I continue to take a personal inventory, and when I'm wrong, promptly admit it. I'm surrendering myself to being right all the time, because I'm not. You know, I hope people don't follow me everywhere and point out all of my mistakes, because there would be so many. Fortunately, I've learned how to do that, but sometimes I'm accountable to people. I was on the phone with Will the other day and just chatting, and he knows a way to pick things out of me. And I was on the phone the other day with a man I sponsor, Scott. He's got over 15 years, and we chat as well, and we can pull things out of each other. But in step 10, I'm surrendering again. And step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood God, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. So I'm asking for His will. I'm saying I'm surrendering my will to Him. And I'm asking for His power because I gave up my power in step 1. And then what do I do with that? Well, I go and surrender myself to you. because I've had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. I tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So now I'm surrendering to you. I'm surrendering my time. I'm surrendering my passion. I'm surrendering my energy. You see what I'm talking about? The surrender never stops, but it does get sweeter. Because as we grow and as we begin replacing, right, we're just not surrendering as a one-time entity. Because I surrender to win, I begin to let go of the pride and the ego, and I begin replacing it with others and the power of God. And I become, as I talked about in The Wizard of Oz, a good deed doer, right? And I begin doing for others because that is my mission in life now. To become the best possible version of me so I can be the greatest value to you. Therein lies the secret of recovery. I surrender to my own ego. I surrender to the fact that I think I know better all the time. I turn my will and my life over to the care of God as we understood God. Because we don't, that's a good thing, because I'm a Christian, and most of you know that. So I have a very definite belief about God. But the beautiful thing about 12-step program is that you can believe whatever you want to believe. Just believe, right? You have a power greater than yourself of your own understanding. So we don't necessarily have to agree on who God is, but let's agree on what God does, right? And what does God do? He makes us happy, joyous, and free. Are you happy, joyous, and free? Or are you holding on to that stale bologna sandwich? I love there was this reading years ago, and it was called the Bologna Sandwich. And it talks about this guy being invited to a picnic. And he really didn't know the people there, but he wanted to come anyways because he was really in need of some fellowship. So he goes to this picnic, and he went home first, and he had a couple pieces of stale bread and a little dried bologna, and he had some mustard in a jar that he had to get down to his knuckles just to get it out. And he threw this sandwich together, and here he is, touching his sandwich. And he goes to sit down to this table that all of these other people prepared and brought. And there was fried chicken, and there was watermelon, and there was salads, and there was desserts, and there was iced tea, and there was soda. It was like a fit for a king. And he thought, no, this is a trick. You just want my bologna sandwich. And he didn't eat. And then he realized what was before him. He realized that holding on to that bologna sandwich would never feed him the way he was being offered to be fed. And he surrendered the bologna sandwich, and he enjoyed the feast he never thought he would receive. He gave up what he had, which was nothing, to get what was being presented to him, which was everything. But until you and I say, I can't, we'll never can. If I didn't think I was drowning, why would I ever want a life preserver? And only you can decide that. I'm not trying to talk you into anything. But if you are sick and tired of being sick and tired, if you're wondering why your life isn't what you ought it to be or want it to be or others want it to be for you, if you're missing out on relationships with your significant other, with your mom or dad, if you're lucky to still have them alive, mine are past. I'm so glad I was sober 2.5 years with my dad and 33 years with my mom. We were able to enjoy the time, the fruit of my recovery, because I surrendered and I was able to recoup that time. Don't let another day pass you by. Even if you are clean and sober, congratulations, whatever day you are on, way to go. But What else are we holding on to? And I say we, because I still hold on to things as well. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. And I'm no different than you. What are we holding on to? Is it a bologna sandwich? What's preventing us to dine at the table of the King, where all things await us? Don't hesitate. Don't fuss. Don't fight. Don't hold on to something that is killing you or certainly stunting you. Get rid of it one day at a time for the rest of our life. I'm so glad to be able to speak with you today. I hope you have surrendered. I hope you're looking forward to surrendering again. I hope you have identified areas in your life that you have not surrendered to. And the thing you're going to do when we get done with this podcast is you're going to surrender one at a time. If there's anything I can do for you along your surrender journey, please let me know what that's like. If you're listening to this podcast on one of the major podcast channels, reach out to me. Send me a message. Go to recoveryguy.org. Find me on Twitter, right? At recoveryguy1986. Go to recovery_guy on Instagram. I'm pretty easy to find. Robert at recoveryguy.org, right? Reach out to me. My phone number's on there as well. Let me know what I can do to make your day just a little bit better. But be ready to surrender, because we'll probably talk about it. If you tell me you want to win and you're not willing to surrender, the conversation probably won't go the way you want it to go. But let's surrender together so we can win together, just like we all come in broken. And together we can come from broken to whole. Have a great day. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Robert, and I am the Recovery Guy.